Now I'm going to go live. All right, folks. It's a beautiful day in Winston-Salem. Randy, is it raining where you are?
It is. I checked outside my palatial estate this morning to see whether the railing was icy.
Yeah?
And the answer is no.
Cool.
It was cold, but not icy.
You know, I applaud your choice of security guards. I've never been able to get into your
palatial estate.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, well, we're secluded, nestled off the beaten path here to keep the hordes and the masses away. So, yeah.
All right. Joyce, we're live on Facebook and LinkedIn. I expect you to, mind your P's and Q's while we're doing this.
Well, but what about the rest of the alphabet? Do I?
I don't want you to tackle it all, Joyce. Just take a piece
okay. I've got the P's and Q's covered. All right, I'm good with that.
And by the way, Joyce, the number of people who show up when we talk about the number of attendees are absolutely fabulous attendees. We do it in a factorial of 1,000. And so right now we have 3,000 people on. And Randy, we just broadcasted. We're live. They're coming in droves. We're up to 8,000 to 10,000 people. So, and by the way, Randy, I truly appreciate you wearing a different color shirt today, and so that you and I did not, match, because that would have really put Joyce, at a disadvantage that she didn't match.
I'm wearing red next.
Right, and having color competition is just a negative way to start the day.
It is, yeah. So, all right, so cool. I think we're a minute ahead, and we're up to 23,000 people, Randy.
Good deal. Can we fit them all in the same internet room?
Well, we can. I mean, we got to give them all a little bit of the internet at a time. Kevin Downey just said he's clear on the way the number works. It's 23,001 as soon as he showed up.
Well, I hope they're all wearing masks and they're all socially distanced and they washed their hands before they.
Oh my golly, Joyce, Randy and I forget about that every time we do the show. Thanks for reminding us.
Okay, that's my job.
Drip dry, yeah, ready to roll.
I gotta go.
Hey, Teddy, it's 12 noon. Should
we're right on task, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, this is Teddy Burriss. I'm your LinkedIn strategist, trainer, coach. I'm also love to bring great people together for fabulous conversations. And I don't know, 36, 37 weeks ago, me and my good buddy, the other guy on the picture, we got together, Randy Wooden and I, and decided to come and meet you every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And what we decided that you wanted was not just us, you wanted us to bring fabulous guests. And thus we've invited a whole bunch of fabulous guests, including today, we invite Joyce Richman, and we'll introduce you to Joyce in a minute. Randy, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to the new folks?
Let me get my cue cards here. I forgot who I am, but Randy Wooden. I'm with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina. I run our professional center. So again, as you might expect, our clients, job hunters, or people that are maybe currently employed and thinking about changing, we help professionals through that process. And part of those things that we do, other than job leads and the standard resume and coaching and so forth, I get to have a little fun. I get to host a couple of LinkedIn workshops every week, and I get to partner with my friend Teddy. And we've had a lot of fun, but I think we've helped some people. I know I get a lot of messages about the shows and occasionally even topic suggestions. So again, glad to be here. It's kind of chilly here in Winston, but we're ready to rock. Teddy, I'll throw it back to you to introduce Joyce and yourself, and we'll get this thing started.
Absolutely. Let's move forward, and let's see. When we go take a look, how many people? We're up to 29,000 people. Hey, you know how to do this. Randy wants to know, where the heck are you? So all of you that are on here listening, and not some of you, not a few of you, but all of you, drop in the chat box and tell us where you're from. Michelle's from Staten Island, Randy.
Yeah, Staten Island, New York.
Yeah, that's the right one. Got Doug from Raleigh. We got Rochester, New York, Cary, Atlanta, Massachusetts. The person who traveled the furthest today wins the prize. Greg's in San Jose. That's pretty close. Lots of people. Boone, North Carolina, from Scott. And let's see, Scott, another Scott is from, I didn't say where, but Louisville. Oh my golly, you got people from Louisville, North Carolina.
Looks like Scott's from central New Jersey. I was born in Trenton.
Were you?
Yeah, so a little known factoid, not that anybody cares, but anyway, that's where that happened. So we've got East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah.
We've had as far as Italy. So yeah, if you're joining us, let us know where you're watching us from. And if you missed the show live, then shame on you. But we can also later on YouTube, LinkedIn, and you name it. So good deal. Teddy?
What else could be more important to do right now than hang out with us and our special guest?
I'm at a loss. I don't know. That's so go ahead, take it away, Teddy.
All right. So look, just to share with everybody that we're grateful for all that we have that makes this stuff work. I want to share with everybody that our sponsors today is Brookmead Holdings. Brookmead Holdings is our founding sponsor. They're career management professionals. They're all about helping people in their career transition as well as professional development. And they also do outplacement services as well. If you're looking for more focused hand-holding guidance, really encourage you to go look for Brookmead Holdings. Give them a call at 814-8910, area code 336, or look for them on Facebook, and or just message me if you want an introduction to the principals, and I'll introduce you to them directly. Thank you, Brookmead, for being our founding sponsor. Really appreciate it. So let's get to the conversation at hand. My good friend Joyce Richman is our guest today. Joyce plays in the same sandbox that Randy plays in and that I volunteer in. Joyce, would you be so kind, rather than me trying, would you introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh, I'm delighted. I'm delighted to do that. I've been involved in coaching relative to career coaching for the greater part of the century, or in the last century, and the century before. So since, very large animals trod the earth, I've been doing career coaching with them. I've been on both the recruiting side as well as the coaching or advising side. I've worked with a variety of companies over a variety of years from a variety of perspectives, just all kinds of different clients, organizations, and find that again and again, companies have a challenge in being able to define the person they want for a particular role. They can give all kinds of duties and responsibilities. They can tick those off. But when it comes to the chemistry of finding the right person, many appear to be at a loss. And so those of us who work closely with organizations, that's one of the things that we need to work on, is helping them see how important the chemistry is, right? Because it's either going to work or it's not going to work. It's more than a person's resume. Yeah. On the other side, on the career coaching side, it's enabling individuals to be able to not only tell their story, they need to know their story, right? Because that's the uniqueness of them. That's the combination of their skill sets and what is innate to them in terms of their strengths.
Yeah, I love that, Joyce. You can't tell your story till you know it.
Yeah,
right. Really.
Exactly.
I'm a little not too clear on the large animals trotting around the earth part. But
well, it more is a definition of how long I have been in this game.
I'm with you. And then the chemistry. Look, a bunch of nuggets there. Most people in job search don't think about chemistry. They don't think about, they think clearly about, I want that chair in that cubicle to do that job to get that direct deposit.
Right. And I want it now. And don't confuse me with personalities. Don't confuse me with chemistry. Just get me that warm body now. Yeah. And thankfully, that's not every person who's in charge of the search for that in order to place that person. But at the same time, though, Teddy, there's still too many who leap over that very important piece of, that we hire someone for their talent, and then the whole daggone person shows up. right? And there begins the challenge.
Yeah. By the way, we could have another conversation. 1 minute, Randy. We can have another conversation another day. That doesn't just happen in hiring people. It also happens with getting married.
Right. The whole daggone person shows
The
up.
whole daggone person. Randy, you got a thought, buddy?
Well, just a reminder for the people that are watching, if you have a question for Joyce, please chat it in the chat box. Don't put it in the Q&A because I can only handle one thing at a time, and I'm handling the chat box. So put it in the chat box. We'll try to work those questions in if they're relevant, appropriate to the discussion. But again, don't hesitate. If you have questions, please put them in there and we'll work those in. So Teddy, you're going to drive the interview today. I know there's some topics. Maybe we can touch on a couple, 3 topics that we're going to cover just to kind of set the tone for where some of this stuff is headed.
Yeah, and Joyce talked about chemistry and know thyself. These are kinds of things we talk about. We're talk about understanding your level of confidence as it relates to your competence. We'll talk a little bit about, are you heading in the right direction? Are you making the right decisions for your journey? So along we titled this whole conversation was going to be, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Right, exactly. And so many folks who get in touch with me and Randy, probably who speak with you and Teddy with you, they many times open the conversation with, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I don't know who I want to be when I grow up. And we're talking about really grown up folks, right? Who many times launched a particular career direction because a parent said to do it. Said that, don't bother me by, try to figure out what you want to do. This thing will pay. And it looks like it's recession proof. So that's what you need to do. Yeah. Years later, that person wakes up, having experienced a lot of unhappiness for a whole lot of years, and then maybe gets laid off. And it's like, really? All this time in the wrong job, in the wrong field, and this is how it ends up. And now I've got to start all over again, trying to figure out who in the world do I want to be when I grow up.
I got a good story on that. A personal friend of mine who became a personal friend when I hired her. And she told me that her mother, that she'd been doing nursing. Her mother said, "You will be a nurse." And she goes, "Mom, I want to do technology because this computer stuff is really cool and it's really blowing up. You will be a nurse." So she went to nursing school and became a nurse. Never liked it. For her, it wasn't right for her. She comes to me out of and leaves nursing, and I give her very first technical, IT help desk job in technology. And she starts blossoming. She becomes a totally different person. Fast forward, 20 years. Today, she is doing a business analyst reporting in the technology department of a huge hospital system. Never saw that coming.
Right. And what a great story, how it combined, right? That a field that she'd never really enjoyed because she wasn't good at it. Maybe she could learn to do it, but it wasn't her gift. It didn't give her, it didn't feed her emotionally, psychologically, didn't feed her. Yet with technology, she ends up in the field itself, but doing what she does best.
Yeah. And this is the kind of thing, I tell that story to remind us, we have to be looking for that. We have to be looking for that, because otherwise we'll never grow up to be doing the thing that really, as using your words, Joyce, that feeds us emotionally, feeds us, at the core of ourselves.
So along those lines, Teddy, I think that we need to be mindful, whether we're parents or grandparents or friends of these individuals, for us to pay attention to who they are, not who we are and who we want them to be a copy of, because we think it worked for us, but to really pay attention, who is this person? What have we observed them doing over time with ease? It's natural. They're gifted at it. Let's remind them of that. And again, whether they're our kids, our grandkids, or our friends.
Yeah.
Right? Because most of us, in its own crazy way, we're not aware of our gifts, because they come so naturally. We didn't have to work for them, so we don't notice them.
Yeah.
It's only others who benefit from those gifts who say, my God, you're good at that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got 12 grandkids. So, in a previous life, maybe I would have said, you go to college and you get this skill and then you go do this. And now I'm just, as you're saying, I'm watching them.
Yeah.
I'm watching them, play differently and laugh differently and learn differently. And that's pretty cool for a grumpy old man to pay attention to.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, Joyce, here's a question. Here's a thought. What if you never knew, as you spoke about before, what if you never knew what you wanted to be? And now you're sitting back and you're going, okay, I'm unemployed, as probably some of our folks on here, we got 39,000 people today. Some of them are unemployed and they're saying, I used to do all this and I've never really discovered what it is I want to do. What's some thoughts that you have that people can start using to maybe figure out what that is?
Well, and to also level set about who may be on our call today. Yes, it may be among those who were unemployed due to this whole COVID crazy, awful thing that we're experiencing. It's also individuals who are working remote. And because they're working remote, they have time to think. Now, I know that they've got call after call after call after call, but still they're working at home and they've been able to cut out all that driving back and forth. So they're also thinking about, really, is this really what I want to do? When life gets back to normal, I may need to be looking for something that really fulfills me. Okay, so to get back to your question then, Teddy, so let me back up. We said earlier how important it is to know your story. I would suggest to anyone who's with us today to think back to childhood, think back to the times where you loved doing whatever that activity was, whatever it was, no matter how playful or how industrious, it came easily, you enjoyed it, you did it because you wanted to. So identify that, take notes, write it down. Don't just commit, just don't think, okay, I'll remember this later. Write it down. Now think about, well, who reinforced that for you? Who are the folks that, whether you played with or worked with, or they taught you, or they were spiritual guides for you, or they were your relatives who said, keep doing this, you're good at it. This is worthwhile. Keep doing it. You have value when you keep doing it. Who were those people? Write those down. And continue to do this as you go through, okay, when I went to, so maybe now I'm out of childhood and maybe I'm into high school. What was going on then? Again, it worked. And who are the people who reinforced that? And then if you were fortunate enough to go to college, or and I don't even know that that's fortunate enough, if it happened that you went to college, what worked then? If you went to work right out of high school, what worked then? So continue to aggregate the good stuff and the people whose personalities brought out the best in you. Now, as a corollary, let's get on the other side of the page. Go back to childhood. What are the things that you did that you could live a long and happy life and never want to do again?
Picking weeds out of the garden.
Well, let's do it, but let's be explicit, right? Let's not think, okay, I'll remember this later. Write it down.
Yeah.
You could do it, but you didn't want to do it. Okay. It may have been essential, but you didn't want to do it. And who were the people who made you do it no matter what? Yeah. Now, I realize that it would have perhaps come out of necessity, right? That you had to because no one else could. I understand that. So it's not that I want you to rewrite your history. I want you to know your story. So we don't unerringly continue to do those things that we believe that others think we ought to do at a point in our lives where that ought to doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah. I like that, Joyce. It's not only what I heard you say was not only look back at what you enjoyed and didn't enjoy and what fulfilled you and didn't fulfill you, but look and see who was in those spaces,
right?
Who was around you and who was encouraging you to do what you really want to do. I know a young man that when he was 20 years old, he was a superb artist. I mean, he could give him a crayon, give him a paintbrush, give him a piece of coal, and he could do some unbelievably beautiful scenery, pets, animals, and people. But he had people in his life says, you'll never make a living at that. You'll never make a living at that. So today he's satisfied as a plumber.
Satisfied.
But I
The
think the word
operative
is,
word.
I think the word is satisfied.
Right.
And not only that, in my opinion, I think his true self was squashed so hard that it may never re-blossom.
Right.
Oh, look at those poetic words.
Right.
I don't think it'll ever happen. Unfortunately,
Right.
it's changing.
Right. So when we think that the word satisfied, is the word satisfied, does it always mean settled?
Yeah.
I settled for it. It was enough. Right. It did what I needed. Anything that may address a reality, and at the same time, it doesn't address aspiration. It doesn't address whatever innate creativity that resides within someone. And I'm not talking only about an artist or a musician. There is the creativity of engineering. There is the creativity of accounting, as long as it's legal. But every field has its own kind of expansive thinking, of strategic awareness. We shouldn't have to settle.
Joyce, you remind me of a talk I had with my dad. He's now deceased, but he retired. And as I was in town with the family to be at the retirement, and I remember him telling me when the two of us were alone, he said, Randy, he said, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. But when he was 18 or 19 or however old he was when he started, he was with the same company. Now they changed names through buyouts, but the same company for his entire work life. And he got the job because he was a good bowler and they wanted him on the bowling team. So they said, Bob, do you want a job cutting grass? And he said, sure. And they put him on the bowling team. So he fell into the job just because he was a good bowler. And then 45 years go by. And, he made decent money. He stayed there and was loyal, and they were loyal to him. We don't see that loyalty these days. And so and I'd like you to speak to this about, I guess, what we would call job security. And it kind of ties in with knowing thyself and what it is you want to do and remaining relevant skill-wise to stay relevant, to find what you want when life, whether COVID or whatever, throws you a curveball.
Randy, as you tell the story about your dad, what connects for me is I think back to, it was in the late 80s, 1980s, like 87, 88, where Burlington Industries, now that we may not know of Burlington Industries now, but certainly your parents or your grandparents or your relatives probably worked for Burlington Industries. And it was a major employer in our area. And this was headquarters, powerful company that fell on bad times. So many of the textiles, so many of the apparel companies fell on bad times. They had to go through, first of all, they had to fight off a hostile takeover. And as a result of that, went through a leveraged buyout that resulted in layoffs, and the layoffs continued at the corporate offices as well as in the plants. So going back, Randy, to your comment about loyalty, these were people who had dedicated their careers, which meant their lives, to a company out of loyalty. That meant they missed their kids' graduations. They missed the ball games. They missed all the family events that meant so much because, by golly, I owe everything to my company until my company lays me off, right? And now we had hundreds and hundreds of people locally who struggled with the notion of, what did it all mean? What was it all for? I missed life with my family, and now I'm unemployed. So I think that essentially changed what certainly their children and their children's children thought about loyalty from that time forward. It really did. And I don't think that we have a generation now that thinks in terms of everything for the company store, but does say, I want a full and complete life. If I have kids, I want to be part of their lives. I want them to know me. I want to know them. So in order to do that, we need to have careers that play to who we are, not to what someone else has defined for us. So Randy, I think it's a telling story. So I thank you. I thank you for describing that one for us.
Yeah, and I often say life is a journey, and it's full of many chapters. And some chapters, hopefully, even if it doesn't seem to end well, whether Burlington or others, we learn from that, and not only learn what we might like, but also maybe what we don't want to do. And that may be that whole loyalty thing you talked about, and looking for more of that balance. And I think as we look at millennials and particularly younger workers, they are seeking that flexibility within the workplace, whereas baby boomers and so forth are still not as much as maybe my dad's generation, but we still value that longevity and that achievement and staying with that organization. I see that a lot with my clients. They're not looking for that next best thing. They want to sink their teeth into something that is for them is fulfilling, and just and ride it out in a good way. We did have a question. I wanted to throw this out here. Is now a good time maybe to start a business? Might that be an option?
Well, this
And
is
what are the pitfalls if you go there?
This is certainly a great time to be thinking about doing that. So this is the great thinking time right now, particularly and especially for those individuals who, one, the fortunate ones who still have a job and are able to work remote. Right. And again, I know that they're exhausted, but they still have more think time or strategic thinking time than they did when they were having to commute and they were working at their physical place. So this is a good time too, if we're thinking about being entrepreneurial, to investigate what all that means. It can sound as though, okay, I'll be in charge of my own life. Nobody will tell me what to do, right? I can be wholly independent. But right. However, then, then the business that you're giving birth to owns you, right? And no one will care about it as much as you will. So there are all kinds of aspects to it. Do you have the personality to be an entrepreneur? And once you have created a business, and let's say that it becomes successful, do you have the personality to sustain it, or will you want to spin it off? If you want to spin it off, well, then do you have the financial wherewithal to see the throughput? So you can go from build it, spin it, building another one, spin it. If you have a partner, if you're married, does that person have the sustainability to go through that with you? So it's not that you need that person's permission, but it's part of a larger, particularly if you're going to do your own thing. It's part of a larger conversation because it involves then the whole family.
Yeah, it does. And I'm paraphrasing now a conversation I had with a business associate of mine some years back. I'd been self-employed doing this kind of work for a long time and had started a small nonprofit with the idea of going out to schools, colleges, high schools, and talking to students about preparation for interviews and what the workforce looks for and that kind of thing. And my takeaway from the conversation, while it may not have been 100% accurate, the gist of it was this. We talk about so often finding our passion and pursuing that passion. And if we can marry our passion with the job, then we've got a great job. And his counsel to me was to be a little cautious of this, meaning if I put all of my eggs in the basket, let's say I love to write poetry. And let's just say, if I pitch everything else and start a poetry writing business, now I starve if that doesn't pan out. And now I have that albatross around my neck that says, oh man, I need to make a buck here. And his counsel to me was maybe consider either volunteering or doing it on the side to see if you're able to generate the kind of revenue or the potential business because now you're, instead of doing it as a passion and as something that really energizes you, now you look at it like, oh no, the thing I thought I loved is causing me now to go broke. You had made an excellent point about, do you have the skill to pull this off? You may have the passion for it, but if you don't have the business acumen, you don't have the sales ability, you don't have those, you have the technical knowledge to do your work, but you got to sell the work to do the work.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of variables that go. There's another question we had. It said, Joyce, when networking, how do you ask for help when you may not be able to help them back right now?
So thank you for that. And just to, before I leave your story too quickly, Randy, that creating a new business is not field of dreams. You know, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to getting them to come. Okay, when networking, what do you? It's the hesitation, I think, that many of us feel, in that it seems like I'm going to ask a favor of you, but I then feel as though I can't return the favor. Therefore, I hold back and I don't want to ask.
Sure.
So let's just turn that on its head. I think it's important to ask people, like we can be asking them what they think. We can ask them to maybe brainstorm with us if in fact we believe that the way they think is a way that we value. I wouldn't ask someone to brainstorm with me if I think that they typically have some really goofy ideas, right? Because I'm going to say, yeah, but. So it starts out with, who are the people that you know personally? It starts with, who do you know personally that you respect? You think that they get you, you get them, and there's something about them that you value. So if I'm going to then call them and say, for example, Randy, I'm involved in a job search and I'm looking for opportunities where I can utilize both my skills and I think that my innate strengths in helping people get work. And I'm stuck. I don't know who to call. I don't know how to get past this stuck place where I am. What are some thoughts that you have? If you're willing, let's just brainstorm with me a little bit. Okay.
Good
now,
deal. Yeah.
if I'm going to engage you based on what you do well, you're a great brainstormer. So you're not going to feel like, oh God, I can't believe Joyce is asking me to brainstorm. Ah, man, she's really using my time. When we're asked to do something we love to do anyway, we love it, right? The person's going to brainstorm you to death probably and keep calling you back with more and more and more ideas. The payback, the way to repay this favor is to say, Randy, my gosh, this has been golden. Not only have you given me great ideas, you've recommended several people for me to be in touch with. So I can't thank you enough. And Randy, if there's ever any time that I have something that I do that you think you could benefit from, please give me a call. I will always be here for you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joyce. Teddy, I know we're about halfway through our show today, so
Joyce, I get it. You don't have to have something in your pocket to give someone who helps you. You only have to be willing to do a favor for them when the time is right.
The favor based on who you naturally are.
Yeah. So, hey, let's acknowledge our sponsor, Brookmead Holdings, career management professionals, all about helping people in their helping them through the process of job search coaching and helping people decide where they want to go and grow to achieve their goals. So if you're looking for a very purposeful and deliberate help, don't hesitate to look for Brookmead Holdings, 336-814-8910, or call me or Randy and ask me for an introduction to the principals. They're good people and I'd be glad to introduce you to them. And again, we're very grateful for their sponsorship, founding sponsor. Randy, 2 questions popped up, but hang on to them if you don't mind, or you consume those and be ready to ask them And then, but I want to take, I'd like to take Joyce, not want to, I'd like to take Joyce into this other conversation before we go there. And that is, it's a two-part, Joyce. How do you know, and I think there's a blunt way we know the answer to this, but how do we know we're in the wrong job? And how do we make the decision when it's time to leave?
So to respond to the latter first, we want to leave before we're left. Right. We want to be the one to choose. We don't want to be chosen in terms of leaving. So then it gets back to your first question. Well, how do we know? I think that we know in a variety of ways. I think it comes from fatigue that just continues. It's not just that one tough day, because we're going to have tough days. We're going to have tough times, right? We're going to have an arc that may be tough. Yeah. But I'm thinking when it's unrelentingly exhausting, then you're veering into depression. I think men have a tougher time acknowledging that than women. But depression is, or workplace depression is burnout. And we always use that term, don't we? I think I'm burning out. Well, that's workplace depression. It means that it's not chemical. Yeah. It's occupational. So that's a real big tip off, this exhaustion that just does not end. Yeah. That we don't get, when I say joy from it, there are a lot of folks working jobs where they don't go, oh my God, the joy I get from this. They're not doing that, but they feel a sense of accomplishment. You know, I did this. We finished this. We finished this on time. We produced something that's of value. You know, someone told me or told us, wow, we made a difference. That's the stuff that keeps us going. If we don't hear it, if we never seem to hear it, and we're just existing in this job, it's long overdue time to be thinking about, well, what might I do that could be a lot more fulfilling?
And, you know, one of the reasons that those two questions are important is because we often will go back and we'll take the easiest road back to that direct deposit. And the easiest road often is go back and do what we were doing before. Mm-hmm. Because the world knows us as that. And sometimes I look at that and go, well, wow, that's jumping from the skillet into the fire, or from one fire into another fire, or, you know, it may not be the best thing for you to do to that thing called yourself, to put yourself back in that predicament.
And so many times ourselves aren't living by ourselves, mm-hmm. but ourselves have families, right? We have partners, we have spouses, many cases kids, and everybody's picking up on this negative energy. Mm-hmm. Everyone's feeling the stress. Yeah. You know, and here we are at a point in our national lives where we're more stressed than we probably have been in years and years and years, just with not only what's been going on politically, but in terms of COVID and the combination of the two. Yep. So then if you add a job that does not fulfill, does not pay back in any way other than a paycheck, we're sucking on fumes at that point.
Yeah, I remember when you talk about we're not doing this by ourselves. My wife and I raised 4 daughters, and I remember in the I guess it was the early 80s, mid 80s, when I heard one of my daughters tell my wife, "I don't like Dad." Mm. And I knew why she didn't like me, because my wife and I've been talking about, you know, I'm not in the environment I need to be in. I'm in a toxic environment, and I've got to leave. And then I remember years later, my daughter's saying to me, "Dad, you don't seem to be as happy anymore doing what you're doing." So clearly others were seeing it. That both of those times were big triggers that I waited too long to accept, to make those transitions and go find something else. And I can clearly remember December 18th, 2 days from now, of 2010, when I left another environment, I won't use the word toxic, I left another environment, and it was the most freeing time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I went off and started a business with zero income for 6 months, it was the most freeing thing I've ever done in my life to leave that environment. So we have to make these decisions to leave, hopefully before we get left,
Right.
or before others in our lives want to leave us.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to the point you made about your daughter, you know, I don't like Dad very much. It was situational, right? And it was a situation that you could change. Well, by the same token, there are people at our work who maybe don't like us very much because we're down, we're frustrated, we're negative. We send out these vibes, and people think, well, the person may be a good person, they may be a good soul, but I don't like them very much. They're so negative, they're so down, they're so whatever. So people notice. Yes, the family, absolutely. We can bring toxicity home, and therein shall it dwell. Family picks up on it, coworkers pick up on it too. And they are even wondering, why don't you leave?
Yeah. Randy, anything?
Well, yeah, we had a long question that is probably not as germane to our topic, but we also had one that's Kevin submitted. And he says, look, I've had my dream job. I no longer have my dream. In fact, I talked to Kevin a week or so ago about this very topic. He says, look, I don't have that job anymore. And when I try to imagine another career, I get stuck in the past. I don't know what I want to do. How do I go about that process? And how do I move forward without having simply to settle for something that you really don't like or love?
I think that we can easily get caught in the past. And in our effort to relive that past, and then we can't find it, become as stuck as this person might believe him or herself to be. I think what's helpful then, and we talked earlier about networking, that networking is about a whole lot more than who do you know. When we network effectively, and let's go over this track again, begin always with someone that you know really well who gets you, right? But they think more expansively than you do because you get them. And the reason that you're asking them is that they think maybe more creatively than you. They think maybe more aspirationally than you. They think more optimistically than you. Okay. So brainstorm with them and say, okay, this is what I loved. This way couldn't have been any better. But I can't find that now. I can't replicate it. It was then. I need to find something else that's going to do something similar to that for me. I don't know. I don't have a clue what it is. If you're networking with the right folks, they'll ask you open-ended questions to find out more about what was going on then. What were the aspects of that particular job that brought out the best in you? Who were the people who brought out the best in you? And then that individual can help brainstorm with you about what possibilities might be. So don't just rely on yourself to come up with it. Again, I wish we didn't call it networking. I think that has just screwed up a lot of people into thinking, I hate the term. Yes.
It's two human beings having a conversation.
Having a conversation about, in this case, and if I'm the job seeker, about me, right? And we both agree in this one conversation to really focus on what some possibilities might be for me.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to ask that question, but we need to identify the right people. Now, all of this isn't even looking at, go to, of course, talk with a career coach. That's what they do. And there are career coaches out there. Again, that's what they do. But I'm suggesting to you that you don't always have to pay for this particular benefit. It's within those who care about you. But who, I'll just say one more thing and then I promise I'll put a cork in it, who don't bring their own story and impose their story on you.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have a lot of well-meaning people who believe that that's coaching, and it's not.
Yeah, that's pressing and demanding. And I'm with you. And to echo what Joyce said, so Kevin's question, you know, you may have had your dream job, but the idea has not gone away. You could find something else similar. I had a lady that I did coaching work with years ago. She wanted to be a phlebotomist. That's what she wanted to be, a phlebotomist. She studied to be a phlebotomist. She got her certificate of phlebotomy, which I clearly know what that is because this arm's been poked to 10 gallons to that vein. And yeah, buddy. And so I asked her, I said, well, she said, I can't find any phlebotomist job. I said, why don't you go find a job like a phlebotomist, be a phlebotomist assistant or an intake manager or something like that. And she started to cry because she was so set on that dream job of being a phlebotomist that she turned down. Randy, this was in your space, dude. It was happened on at University Parkway. She turned down an opportunity to be an intake manager to help people come in and give blood that she could have been a stepping stone to be a phlebotomist. But she was so set on that dream job that she took vision off other ideas. So,
Teddy, what your comments prompted me also is that many times we get stuck on the title of a job, and that we don't think beyond the title. What are the implications of that? Why are you drawn to that? Right? That there has to be more than the name of the job. So again, if we are networking with that person, if we're coaching or counseling that person, it's more around, okay, tell me why you care about this so much. What has brought you to this? What do you get from it when you do it? And that starts to open up with the possibilities of positions that could be related.
Yeah, I'm with you, Joyce. There are activities out there that people get paid great compensation for, doing stuff that you've never imagined.
Mm-hmm.
It may very well be, oh my God, this is my dream job. Mm-hmm. But you don't even know what it is until you're willing to have an open conversation with folks. So, hey, Joyce, let's go to something else. So one more big point that I like for you. This is fabulous stuff, and I hope everybody's getting value out of this because I truly enjoy these conversations. Confidence. One of the things that people struggle with is confidence, and often confidence gets in the way for us. And often we might want to be confident and come off arrogant. But can you speak to confidence in the context of looking for a job?
I think it's a great question. I think that confidence, if someone is confident, I think, and again, we can probably all have a variety of perspectives on this, but I think it's someone who knows who they are. They know their life's experience. They know their story, and they're comfortable saying it because it helps to define them in terms of what it is they choose to do with it, right? So I think that that's confidence. I think arrogance is a whole other thing. I think arrogance is speaking to things that we may well not know how to do, but we're going to just, posture our way into a situation as though we do, or maybe we do know what we're talking about, but we make it at all about ourselves and how great we are, and that we don't realize or pay attention or give covet to those individuals who help us get there or help us succeed.
Yeah. But then there's another part to being confident as well. Look, Randy Wooden and I started this show, and even though he's a DJ from way back before the internet, they had to rely on radio waves. But I'd never done this before. Randy came to me and said, dude, let's do this. I said, let's go, man. I've never done it before, but I'm willing to give it a try. And look at us today. We're world renowned. We got 42,000 people listening to us live with great special guests. My point is, I didn't need to know Grant Cardone in his book, The 10X Rule. Grant Cardone, the book is The 10X Rule. He says, go do it. If you don't know how to do it, then tell them you're going to do it, and then go do it and learn how to do it and practice how to do it and get better. And you've got to stand up. When Randy said, let's do it, I confidently said, we can do this. I didn't have a clue how to do this. But we're successful. My point is, I think in the context of showing competence with something you clearly know how to do, you should be able to do that without being arrogant. But I also believe, based on some of our previous conversations, that we have to be confident that we can figure it out and then do everything. Dale Carnegie said, and then do everything in your power to be able to do it. So anyway, just another look on confidence. Thoughts about being confident when you're not real sure, Joyce?
Well, I think that when you said in response to Randy, let's do it, my hunch is that maybe you didn't know all the technical aspects of it. It was something, those were skills you could learn, but you knew that innately, you knew you had the strength of the gift of gab. You knew that you are perpetually curious. You love to ask questions. You love to engage with people. You love to be real, and you want them to be real. So I think those are the things you knew about yourself that enabled you to say, let's do it. Because I think that you just needed to learn from Randy what the nuts and bolts of it were. But Randy couldn't teach you the innate stuff. That had to come from you.
Yeah, and we got to pull that out of ourselves, and no matter what we're doing, where we can. What innate skills do we have that can position us, give us foundation for going and taking on a new challenge? So good stuff. Randy, did I miss anything? Any other questions come up, buddy?
Yeah, one just came up, and I haven't really read it yet. So let me just buy a moment so you can see it. But this whole thing about the strength, we had Malcolm McDougall on a couple of weeks ago, talking about Clifton strengths and understanding everybody has strengths, but we may not necessarily believe that we have them because we see other people, talented singers and athletes and so forth, and we think of ourselves as just, okay, well, I'm me. But I think as soon as, or at a certain point, when we begin to understand what our strengths are, and also maybe what our strengths aren't, at some point in life, we quit trying to do like the phlebotomist, or we quit trying to be the nurse that, Teddy, you talked about. When you realize nursing isn't for me, it's not a strength of mine, it's not a passion of mine. I could do it to make a buck, but surely there's something else that's closer to my sweet spot that I would enjoy doing. And I've always enjoyed, I have a voice for radio, and you would also probably say a face for radio, but it's something that I've done for many years. I can write, I can speak, and so I can blend the passion and the strengths I have with the product knowledge, like Joyce has done for so many years to help so many people. So it's a good marriage of skill and strength, passion, in all of that. So did I buy time for you to do that last question?
I got it. So Doug threw out this question, and Steve threw out a question that I'm going to take offline because it's a different question. So Steve, look for Teddy. You know how to find me. Steve A. So Doug threw out, the industry changed, the job went away, his small network was in a whole nother country, and now he wants to connect with people and have conversations. He wants to build a network to have conversations, and I'm paraphrasing Doug. So, and with people locally, so he can get to know them, they get to know him, and they can have conversations about his goal. So Joyce, thoughts on how Doug, just quickly, some thoughts that you can share with Doug about how he can start meeting people today and sincerely get an opportunity to have a conversation?
Well, then I don't know how helpful I will be, but let me take a stab at this. Be clear within yourself about what are those skills or strengths that you are interested in pursuing. And then let anyone at all know precisely what those strengths or skill sets are, and just say, who do you know who has them? I'm trying to put together just a group of folks that we can share ideas and share perspectives around careers. So who do you know who? but you have to be specific about what it is you're looking for. So they're out there, right? We have to figure out how do we find them.
Yeah. And by the way, Doug, go to ncwiseman.com, ncwiseman.com. You'll see the promo for the Randy and Teddy lunch conversations, but there's also a link up there called for virtual networking groups. There's groups all over the triad, all over the place and all over the country. Show up and meet people and say hi and have a smile on your face. That's the best way to start growing your network. So, Joyce,
yes.
Can you wrap up what you said in a few sentences and just package up something that you think is really meaningful for the audience to hear in the context of what we just talked about?
Well, we never know what's meaningful to others. I will say that what's meaningful for me is the story. What is your story? What's your background? What were you able to do all the years that you've been living that you have enjoyed? You may not have been paid for it, but other people have valued it. Other people have said, oh, would you do that for me? You do such a good job. So pull that together, make notes about that, and be really clear about what you, again, can live a long and happy life and never do again. Move toward people who bring out the best in you, and to the degree that it is humanly possible, keep distant from those who bring out the worst in you.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with you. Good point.
I always wanted to be a center fielder for the Red Sox or a quarterback for the Patriots, but that wasn't in the cards. So but I still have the ball. So.
And Randy, I bet there have been a variety of things you've done throughout your life that have connected to those two roles, not specifically, but in the ways in which you conduct your life, the ways in which you communicate, because those are about communication. It's communication in motion, but it's communication, and it's being like the center of that communication. I bet you've done that your whole life.
Yeah, my mom was a school teacher, and that was one of the things as I started to get older. I found that while I have been in sales for a number of years, and Teddy, you can speak to this too, because you were in an IT solution sales kind of role, I think, or had at least that was part of your job. The sales part, I could do it, but I didn't enjoy it. What I enjoyed was the informing and educating of the customer and that's not necessarily going to, giving away free consulting isn't going to put food on your table, but that was the part I enjoyed. And the same thing you talked about, Joyce, when you were a recruiter. I didn't like the sales aspect of recruiting and getting lied to and that whole thing. But what I did enjoy was helping coach and helping both the candidate and the employer ask good questions so they could arrive at a good conclusion.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so that not trying to tell them you take the job or not, but ask good questions. So you go in with your eyes open, you look at culture, you look at all the things you talked about, the things that are important to you beyond simply, I want that job in that chair in that cubicle. And again, that goes back to I guess the teaching component and being that center of knowledge to say, hey, you know what? Have you thought of this? So that's Teddy, that's my story for the day. And life is a chapter. Just know that it's a series of chapters. And while this chapter may be a real challenge, and a lot of folks that are, sitting at home due to COVID or what have you, and they're saying, there's got to be more to life than this. Mm-hmm. So rather than stay in that, what I'll call comfortable rut, why not reach out to people like Joyce and others out there and pick their brains, as Joyce has, kind of coached us today. That's my takeaway on this is don't just sit there and take it. If there's that itch that says, you know what, I'm not fulfilled here, act on it.
Right.
And that because you don't want to go to your grave wondering what if.
Mm-hmm.
At least investigate it. You may find, it's not as what I thought it was, and that's okay too. But at least you tried it.
Yep.
And Teddy, the same thing with our show. You tried it, and I'm glad you did.
All right, me too, buddy. Hey, here's my story.
Yep.
A month or so ago, we had Sarah Elkins on, and Sarah wrote a book that your stories don't define you, how you tell them do. So think about your stories. You need to not just think about your stories. You need to say your stories out loud. If you're trying to figure out where you want to be, what you want to do when you grow up, then you need to look back at your past and you need to look at your stories. You need to visualize them. You need to see yourself doing them. Then you need to say those stories out loud, even if you're just talking to the mirror or just, talking to a glass of cheer wine. Say those stories out loud, because when you hear those stories echo through your ears, they resonate differently and they make you think about your stories differently. And it can be a much richer experience to make decisions about, was that the kind of story I want to replicate? Or is that a story I don't want to replicate? Or is that a story I can adjust and make it something different? So tell yourself your stories out loud, so that you can then go have a meaningful conversation with someone else and decide, where is it you want to be? What is it you want to do when you grow up? Before I introduce, I'll tell you who our next speaker is, our next special guest, Joyce, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
An absolute blessing to have you here. And by the way, you're youthful in energy through the screen, my dear. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joyce.
And our next week, we have another good friend, Emily Lawson. Emily's going to come and bring a whole nother conversation, as you would expect for us to do. And this time it's going to be about applicant tracking systems and your resume. Applicant tracking systems are the gateway that people are scared to death about because they fear their resumes aren't getting through it. And Emily has some insights on ATS and insights on resume writing that can help us, at least challenge that gateway that we're all so fearful about. Randy, anything else at 12:59, buddy?
Yeah, just that's a topic that I get a lot is, okay, my resume might look pretty. It's presentable to the human eye, but is it presentable and effective when it comes to applicant tracking systems? So get ready with your questions next week, because we're going to have an expert on that'll talk to that topic about resumes and the applicant tracking system and all what goes on when you click submit.
Everybody have a great week and great weekend, and we'll see you next week.